Some experiences and some people are the substitute teachers that you may not fully appreciate and or give the same respect to. Guys, what's going on? Welcome to the Bird Brain Podcast, where the goal is to rise above it all, stay elevated, create that infinity, and up your you. I'm your host, Isaiah. And how are you doing? Simple question. Do a body scan. See what's going on in your body, in your head space, in your heart space. How's your heart? That was one of the first concepts I put into the world on this podcast years ago. I think kind of around the time I started. Yeah, and it's just important to do that scan and figure out what's going on and where it's happening. Shout out to all my podcast subscribers. If you're on Spotify, if you are on Patreon, if you are on Apple Podcasts, thank you guys so much for the love and for showing support. And I hope that I have been giving you something worth supporting and showing up to. It's a beautiful thing. So it's good to know that I'm taking up space in you guys' life seas. I was thinking about this week. I've been thinking about the past weeks. And, you know, it's so funny how, and excuse my voice if it goes in and out, guys. We still got something going on here. It's so funny how, as we are maturing and going through life, we still have some very old experiences that come up, right? We have these old experiences that come up in new ways, okay? New people, same situations, new people. And there's something there to learn because it's something that these people are teaching us, right? It's just that they're substitute teachers, so we don't always give them the respect as our actual teacher. Follow me. You know, if you have a very stern teacher, or the teacher that's usually there or that has been there for quite some time, there's a different level of respect you give that teacher versus the substitute. Because the substitute doesn't know all the ins and outs and the intricacies of what's going on. So there is this expectation, but also this willingness in some cases to take advantage of that, right? It could go either way, right? And, you know, sometimes we get so frustrated as we are working through things because it seems to be, well, I keep dealing with this same kind of person and different people, or why does this keep happening to me? I should know this by now. This should not still be happening. Rinse, wash, repeat. And we overlook the reality that I'm standing here doing this podcast right now, right? This is a part of my work. I get up, shower, brush my teeth, a podcast. Someone else may still be in bed. Somebody else may be out for a run, right? Somebody may be going to breakfast. Somebody may be going into work, right? Somebody may be going through a breakup right now. Somebody may be with a sick relative or a sick friend or something. Somebody may be going through something else. And basically what I'm saying to you is that everybody is doing something different right? On a grand scale, everybody's doing something different. And when it comes to the healing and the growing and the checking your blind spots and the learning of new experiences or new practices, etc., everybody is doing something different. So just because you are working on your healing, you're going to therapy, you're going to coaching, you're doing this, you're reading these books, etc., the people that you are interacting with are not doing those things, which means that you are still going to be interacting and engaging with people who are doing their own thing. And that's not always going to align with you. They're substitutes, right? They're substitute teachers. And the actual teacher, right? The actual person or situation or circumstance that has kind of planted this seed of something that seems perpetual, that's necessary to work through and work on, they're not present. They're out sick or they're retired now, right? For example, if you had the kind of parent that wasn't the most supportive of a person, or they were despondent, or they dismissed your feelings and all these things in between, now you are engaging in new relationships with people who kind of do the exact same thing. And your frustration and demands and expectations stem from the main teacher. And now this person is a substitute, right? And it's like, I'm coming to you with all this awareness of my own experiences that you don't know. You just got here. You just got here. And I'm expecting you. Well, there's a couple of things I'm probably expecting from you. I'm expecting you to not be fully aware of my stuff because I want to covet some things, right? However, my behavior in a certain way, depending on how much respect I have for the substitute teacher, is going to show up, right? And how I treat you. You know, back in grade school when there was a substitute teacher, sometimes you had a really cool substitute teacher. And other times you could tell that the teacher was new, and then there were some kids who would take advantage of that teacher and treat them very poorly, right? Treat them very poorly. And since they couldn't do that to the actual teacher, well, this is bait. This is fresh meat right here, right? And we do that with people. We project onto other people. We take advantage of other people sometimes. Okay? Or maybe, you know, the substitute teacher does the opposite. They come in and they try to, you know, steamroll. And they try to lay down an iron fist, right? And you're like, what the hell? Why are you going this hard? What's this? You know, it's not that deep. But they are trying to protect themselves because maybe they've had experiences in the past where they were taken advantage of. Or maybe they are just power tripping, right? The need to be an authoritative figure kind of overrides their awareness of how to treat people. There's a lesson in everything, y'all. And I know even for me just recently, some big lessons came up, some big lessons. And they were very, how do I put it? They were varying in the necessity of what I needed to learn. In some cases, it was understanding that my boundaries will still be kind of, I don't want to say tested, because I don't know if everybody's always testing my boundaries. Some people are. By design, some people are. And my responsibility is to just stay firm to my boundaries, right? If there are certain things that I communicate that are important to me and there seems to be a constant deviation or a disregard for those things, all right, cool, Isaiah, well, what's the lesson here? Stand firm in your boundaries. All right, bet, say less, right? And I think what we also don't understand is that your threshold for a lot of things will not be as vast as it used to be once you start taking care of yourself. And you may run the gamut of having multiple experiences a lot more frequently in certain ways, just because you are not willing to go the extra mile with said person, like one person. Instead is like, oh shoot, I noticed this, I'm out. And then you move on to the next person. I noticed this again. Damn, I'm out. Right? And then you get frustrated because you're like, I'm doing all this work, but I keep meeting these people. Yes, you're going to keep interacting with people. That's a part of life. We are always exchanging with people, okay? And I think that is so important to understand and get through your head, right? You may be existing in relationships with the same person, but the real test of it all is how long are you staying, right? Because you won't experience as much if you are willing to subject yourself to one person's BS continually over time just for the sake of being in a relationship, right? Or what you do, and sometimes people do, is they will stay with a person that's like a project because it keeps them from having to deal with themselves, right? If I always gotta be, figure out this trivial relationship, then I never have to really take a look at my contribution to why this relationship is the way it is. I never have to process that. I never have to own my responsibility in it, right? It's the substitute teacher. I could take advantage of this. It's always this person or this is always going on. Versus when it comes down to me and what I'm actually doing, well, there's some ownership there that I don't necessarily want to really deal with right now. So I will avoid. I will distract myself with other things. I will point to all the external factors that are the reason why I cannot progress, right? Everything is some kind of teacher, and a lot of things in life are the substitute teachers. But there is still a lesson, right? And a lesson is for you, right? Like I said, I've had some very interesting experiences recently, but I don't stay as long. And it's different with different people, right? My threshold for certain things with certain individuals may be different than someone else. And you may ask, well, why is it different? Well, depending on the history, right? That's also a thing too, depending on the history, but also depending on the quality of the relationship. There will be moments where there's a season, okay? There's a season of, what's the word I'm looking for? Deviation. And that may become the permanent fixture of the relationship, right? But in the meantime, there's a noticeable deviation from what it used to be. All right, cool. Let me explore this. Okay. And I'm exploring it with the history of what I know of this relationship, not just saying, oh, this is a new person doing something that I really don't dig and it affects me on a deeper level. It's not just something superficial, right? This is somebody who I value and I care about, and they're important to me, and I notice these things, okay? That's where the boundaries become a little bit more intricate on your end, right? Because you have to ask yourself, well, while I've known this person for this amount of time, what is happening? And how long am I willing to let it go on, right? Because sometimes the people we are doing life with, they bring in a substitute, right? Who they were for a standing period of time, or how they navigated or how they participated in the relationship with us was very different than how it is now. So there's a substitute here. How long is the teacher out for? Because I actually like my original teacher. This substitute, I don't know what the hell is going on, but it's definitely not a vibe, right? And you have to get in this space of understanding, well, what have I learned from my original teacher, right? What is the curriculum there? What have I studied, right? Because this seems more like a pop quiz. Are you guys following me? I hope I'm being clear about this. But I was thinking about it in the shower. All my thoughts come to me in the shower usually, or just in my waking life, or as I'm, just going through my own stuff. And I was just thinking, I was like, man, I've had some very familiar experiences recently with different people, or I've had some residual haunts with certain exchanges or certain situations and circumstances, and I'm just like, all right, cool. What's the lesson here? Well, Isaiah, how long are you going to stick around this time? Right? How understanding are you being of not just other people, but of yourself and what you need? Because sometimes we leave that part out. Being understanding of someone is not minimizing or undervaluing yourself. Contrary to what society preaches, you can do both, right? There can be space for your feelings and your experiences and someone else's. It seems to be a lopsided kind of preaching of who is allowed to feel what in certain experiences. So understanding that, okay, what's happening? What do I feel? What do I need? What's happening with this other person? How am I taking care of them? But also, how am I taking care of myself? And are they willing to take care of me too? Right? And if the answer is no, then it's like, all right, cool. Let's pivot. If the answer is yes, all right, cool. What do we need to do? Right? But there were certain instances where I was noticing things very early on, and I was like, nope, I'm not doing this. And I communicated that, hey, these are things that I'm not willing to invest in because they are starting to look very familiar to me, right? Based on my actual teacher, you're coming in as the substitute, and quite frankly, I'm not fond of the original teacher. So you doing the same thing is kind of raising some flags, right? Not everybody in a teaching position is a good teacher. They will teach you something, right? But doesn't mean that they are teaching you properly in a ways that you feel more enriched and encouraged. Instead, you have had to learn through a very toxic and negative understanding and environment that was not supportive. Okay? And again, you, always bring it back to you. Somebody is a substitute teacher in our life. We can't demand that they do all the things for us, right? Likelihood the original teacher, whatever your original experience was, left behind some work to do. Right? And if you disregard that work because that original teacher isn't there, well, now what? You're disregarding work that you may need to recognize and be aware of. Okay? And then when the time comes and there's a pop quiz or something in life that kind of tests you, are you prepared? It's pass fail. And then when you fail, who are you upset with? Right? Does it become everybody else's problem in certain situation and circumstances, or are you actually understanding of like, oh, well, this is a lesson for me to learn and understand because I had the opportunity to be mindful and I didn't, right? What lessons am I recreating for myself outside of somebody else's involvement and or participation? What does that look like, right? Because we got to be honest about that, How am I being mindful of my habits, my studying habits? Right? Life is truly school, y'all. It really is. And, there will be some lessons that require you to revisit a few times. And other ones you just recognize. But, I've talked to a few clients about the understanding that, taking should out of your vocabulary. Like, oh man, I shouldn't be dealing with this right now. I shouldn't be having these same experiences. Actually, it is not about should or shouldn't. We have to give the world an opportunity to exist around us, right? And what that means is that if you are still looking to kind of cultivate relationships with other people, you are stepping into their worlds as they're stepping into yours, which means that it's not always going to be the most congruent. And when you recognize that, you can see it a little bit sooner and decide much sooner. Hey, is this something that I am willing to exist in and involve myself in? Or is this not? Does this not kind of fit the mold of what I'm trying to experience and move forward with through life? Okay. And sometimes you transfer schools, right? Sometimes you transfer schools, like you move. And that's fine too, y'all. That is so fine. But I think, not everything needs to be harsh, to be honest. Okay. For yourself and for other people. Right. And feelings will come up. If something doesn't feel right, yeah, you will have some kind of response to it. And that's all right. But how are you projecting that? Right? How are you projecting that? You don't need to play like everything's okay. And at the same time, you don't need to be, harsh either. Find some balance, right? Stand firm on what it is that you need and what you are experiencing. And at the same time, be mindful of the person on the other end, right? But also, how you treat other people is truly a test of your character, right? So that's important and necessary to understand too. I hope this is helpful for you guys. I hope it brings things full circle. And it was just something that I was thinking about, right? There will be a lot of substitute teachers in your life who are bringing, either they don't know the curriculum and they're trying to figure it out, right? There are some people who may show up in your life and they may not have all the necessary tools to get it right the first time. But how are they existing in the relationship with you? How respectful, how intentional are they? Okay. And you get to decide at any point in time who you want to have a relationship with. But if you were holding them to the same standard as your original teacher, you got to ask yourself, well, is that fair? Right? Pay attention to how somebody is showing up and how sincere they are. And then go from there. Make your decisions. And, be mindful of what it is that you seek on the receptive end. I think for me, I'm an imperfect human, right? I'm an intentional human. I'm an imperfect human, but I'm an intentional human. And it doesn't require perfection to be purposeful. Okay? And while we all make mistakes, if the mistake is repetition, then that's just pure laziness or disregard for other people, right? That's not a mistake anymore. That's a pattern behavior. Okay? However, the whole treating people how you want to be treated. Just treat people well and then see what they do with that, okay? But yeah, that's all I got, guys. I wish you a very thoughtful week and a very introspective week. And, I just want you to ask yourself, how much am I requiring of other people to teach versus how am I showing up and applying the knowledge that I've learned? Okay. Coaching is available. The link is in the description of this episode. And the coloring book is still available. Got some more orders in. So understand if you ordered a book, it'll be getting to you soon. These shipments are just rolling in. But I appreciate you guys. Merch is available as well. And become a Apple subscriber, Spotify subscriber, Patreon subscriber. You get bonus content, ad-free episodes, and just get to hear more of my voice. But yes, with that said, take care of yourselves. Yes, take care of each other, and take flight.